In the beginning of today's Rambam, which is Perek Yud in Shvuot Halacha Aleph, we're talking still the halachas of Shvuot Edus. When you're tevea, another person or edim to be made for you, and they swear and they say they don't have edus, and really they did, so they're chayiv in Shvuot Edus. So here the Rambam begins and says, "Hayed of ayachad mehen posel a koriv va'afilu mipsul edus shel divreihem." Etc., etc. Says v'nishvu mishvuas ha'edus she'ilu hoidu ve'idu lehoyu mechayvin be'edusan momen. In order for edus to be chayiv shvuas ha'edus when they were kaifer, when they swore that they don't have edus, is only that if they would be made, their edus would work. They'd be mechayiv. So therefore, people who are posel edus, so their edus would not have worked. So even if they're kaifer and they say that they were nishba, they swore that they don't have edus, they're potter. But here there's an interesting chidush. The Rambam says even if the edus are posel the rabbana, so in other words, these are edus midiraisa, they're kosher edus. And here we're talking about a chiyuv diraisa, shvuas edus midiraisa, and midiraisa these people are kosher edus. But nevertheless, since midrabanan they're posel edus, so they're potter from the chiyuv shvuas edus deiraisa, and that's a chidush. So there's an interesting, very beautiful Tzemach Tzedek in the Shalos of Shuvas and Even Ezer Simin Kuf Chav Daled. And that is, we have a din legabi kiddushin. Kiddushin, of course, needs edim. And if you have edim that are apostle, so it's not a kiddushin. What if they're apostle edus midrabona? Midiraisa, they're kosher edim. Midrabona, they're apostle. Let's say Mesache Bikuvia, for example. It's one of the examples that are usually given for apostle edus midrabona. So if a person was mekadesh an isha with psuli edus midrabona, so what's the halacha? So halacha lepeil is that you need a get. Again, misofik al kaponim. You need a get. You don't say since they're apostle edus midrabona, so there's no kiddush. And in the Beis Yosef, it's Tzemach Tzedek, it's signed to Beis Yosef and Even Ezer, Simin Membeis, legabi kiddushin, Simin Kuf Lamed legabi gerushin. And the Beis Yosef talks about it, and he brings that there are some shittas that hold that if it's psuli edus midrabona, there's a ganze kiddushin, there's no kiddushin. But Lepoel, the Beis Yosef doesn't pass in that way. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't pass in that way. There's a Rashba, along Shuvas a Rashba, also where the person, the Shoyel, the one who asking the Rashba, said that he heard, he was Mekabel, that if you're Mekadesh with Suleitis, that Rabbanon is Ken Kiddushin it, and the Rashba comes out very strongly against it. He says, no, being that Midiraiser, they're kosher Eidim. So therefore, you need a get, Al Kapanim, a get Misofim. Frek, the Tzemach Tzedek, why don't these Rishonim and Peskim bring this din in our Rambam from today of Suleitis the Rabbanon? Because in today's Rambam, Legabi the Shvuas Edus, we see that if an Edus is possible, even though he's only possible with the Rabbanon, nevertheless he's in this battle, his Edus is Ken Edus. Ad Kedekach, that he's potter in Gansen from the din Shvuas Edus. So it would seem from this halach and Shvuas Edus that apostle Edus with Rabbanon is in Gansen this battle, is not an aid and is not considered an aid even Legabi din Deiraisa. So why is this not brought as a raya? Well, Kapanim as a tzad, that Hamikadesh b'psuli edus the Rabbanon should actually be mevatel the kiddushin. And be'emes it's a shaila, it's a kasha in one halacha against another halacha, because legabi kiddushin and gerushin we pasken that if they're pasal edus only with Rabbanon, so they are considered edus legabi the deraisa and they are mechayev a get. Because we do have to consider the fact that midiraisa they're kosher. And legabi this din of Shvuas Edus, the Shvuas Edus we say that apostle Edus with Rabbanon is a ganzen Canadian, and there's no din Shvuas Edus. Zogt Tzemach Tzedek that the answer really lies in a Gemara. Gemara says in Yom Dafayin Daled. There it talks about another Indian also talking legabi Shvuas. It says, we know that we learned in the Rambam the last couple of days that if a person makes a shvua to do an isur minatera, so the shvua is not chal. Because since there's an isur minatera, so the shvua is not chal. What if it's a shvua? What if it's an isur it's only asur midrabanan, and a person makes a shvua? The Gemara there is talking about chatzi shir, according to the Shlakish, that chatzi shir is only asur midrabanan. But the good is, what if a person makes a shvua to do an isur that's only asur midrabanan? So Allah is the shvua is yechal, even though it's asur midrabanan. But since midei raisa it's not asur, so the shvua is chal. Frag the Gemara, mamish discussion. Why are we saying that a shvua, that a isur midrabanon, that a shvua is chal on isur midrabanon? Says the Gemara, but we see that by shvuas ha'edus, even that psuli edus midrabanon makes you potter from shvuas ha'edus. In other words, in the halacha of shvuas gufa, that on one hand we see when you make a shvua and it's a dover that's only osher midrabanon, the shvua is yechal. Right? It's because shvua is deiraisa. So an isur midrabanon doesn't take away from the shvua deiraisa. Frag the Gemara alain over there in Yuma that we see in shvuas gufa, that absolutely the Rabbanon makes that there's no din shvuas ha'edus. So again, we have that stira of when does an isur Rabbanon affect the deraisa or not. And for the Gemara Dorten in Yuma, says the Gemara, Shiny Hossam, the Omar Kro im lo yagid, the high lav bar hagodo hukla. Zokt Rashi, that by Shvuas Ha'edus it says im le'yagid, mashma misha hagoda shalei me'eles le'baladin, v'hai le'mahanya hagoda didei, ha'yilu v'le me'kablinon lo midrabon. In other words, like this, and Tzemach Tzedek is masber, that by Shvuas Ha'edus, what's the negay is his Edus going to help me in Bezdin. I'm teveh the person to be made for me. If Bezdin is not going to be mekabel as Edus, if they're not mekabel zedus, if it's midiraisa or midrabanan, lepoyol, Bezdin is not going to be mekabel that person, whether it's because he's posel diraisa or posel drabanan. Hey, yes, that's what's negea is his hagoda in Bezdin lepoyol. So even if the reason Bezdin won't be mekabel edus is because of absul drabanan, but lepoyol the Bezdin won't be mekabel edus, and if Bezdin won't be mekabel edus, there's no im leyagid. In other words, there's no problem with there's no shvuas ha'edus. The vart of shvuas ha'edus, I'm teveh the aid to be made for me in order to help me, but this state won't help me. His psul is only the rabbanon, but lapel the bezdin are from Eden. The rabbanon they're going to listen to also, so they're not going to mekabel the words of the edus. So the mela zakti gemara dartin in Yuma. That's why when it comes to shvuas ha'edus, even if the aid is only possible with rabbanon, nevertheless that affects the deiraisa dikadin that you're potter from the isur from the chiv of shvuas ha'edus, because the deiraisa dikadin is tolui on the hagode in bezdin lepayil, and a yes that lepayil you won't be able to say it won't be niskabel in bezdin. So there's no deiraisa dikadin also not. Mashain came by the case where the Gemara is talking about there, when a person makes a shvua, not to do or to do an isur drabanon. So here there's no din hagoda, there's no din hagoda in bezdin, and the mela since midei raisa there's no such isur, so the shvua is chal midei raisa. That's what the Gemara says over there. Says the Tzemach Tzedek that this answer can also answer the Tzemach Tzedek's kasha. The shaila was that on the one hand, shvuas ha'edus, apostle edus from the rabbanon is mevatel l'din shvuas ha'edus deraisa. On the other hand, by gittin and kiddushin, if you're mekalish b'psulei edus, by gittin kiddushin when you're mekalish b'psulei edus, the halacha is if they're psulei is the rabbanon, that you do need to get. You are cheshush l'kiddushin farvos. Same answer, because gittin kiddushin is not a din in hagodah. It's not that those edus aren't negated to be magid in bezdin or not magid in bezdin. It's a din that's some kiddushin. So b'meila, since midei raisa they're kosher edim, b'meila midei raisa there's a kiddushin. And mashenkin over here legabi the din of shvuas ha'edus. Over here, no. Over here it's a din of hagodah l'poil. And being that they're possible midirabbonon and b'meila we won't accept their hagodah in bezdin, b'meila there's no din shvuas ha'edus midei raisa. The Rebbe brings this Tzemach Tzedek in a Reshima in Kuf Samach Aleph, and the Rebbe explains it by talking about the inyan, the chiluk of different types of edus. As we know, there's edei kiyum and edei biru. There's edim that their inyan is in order to be mevarer this inyan, in order to be able to give it over in bezdin. And there's edim that their inyan is just by being there, they create something. So says the Rebbe, by gittin and kiddushin, that the edim are there, not in order to be able to give it over to Bezdin later, but just to be there. That there should be two Eidim b'shas the Gittin and Kedushin that create that it be a Gittin and Kedushin. It's not the fact that they'll be able to tell it over later as a secondary thing. So b'meila, that's the pshat over here. What the Tzemach Tzedek is saying, that by Gittin and Kiddushin, even though he's pasal eidus midrabanan, so b'meila he won't be accepted in a bezdin. That's part two. But the ikar of these eidus is not being accepted or not being accepted, but rather just the fact that they're there. And midoi raisa, they're kosher eidim that are there. So the Kiddushin is a Kiddushin. The get is a get. Shenk when it comes to psuli eidus, Shenk when it comes to of Shvuot eidus over there, where I'm trying to get this aid to come and be made for me. That's a gather of Eidi Birur. I need him to be mevarer or something. So there, even though the Eidus is only possible with Rabbanon, but Lapel Mamish, he won't be mevarer this thing for me. And Memela, the fact that it won't be Niskabel Lapoil, even though it's with Rabbanon, affects the Din de Raisa and makes that there's no din of Shvuas Eidus de Raisa also now.